The first movie on our list is titled The Five Bloods. Yes, that's with a D-A, not T-H-E. It was released on June 12th, 2020, and you can watch it on Netflix. The actors involved, the main actors, are Delroy Lindo, who plays the character of Paul, Jonathan Majors, who plays David, Clark Peters, who plays Otis, Norm Lewis, who plays Eddie, Isaiah Whitlock Jr., who plays Melvin, and Chadwick Boseman, who plays Stormin' Norman. The director is Spike Lee, and it was shot on location in Thailand. The setting is the year 2020 of Vietnam. Okay. So let me tell you what it's about if you don't already know. It's about 4 African-American Vietnam War veterans who go back to retrieve their fallen leaders' remains while at the same time digging up the gold that they buried back then. And once they get there, a whole lot of stuff go on. So you're in for a treat in this one. All right. So now before we give our reviews, let me explain the rating system of all the movies that we're ever going to watch and review here. They will get between 1 to 5 stars, or reels, as we call them. Reels like movie reels, the big movie reels. So they'll get 1 to 5 reels. 1 will be terrible, and 5 will be amazing. Okay. Once we have given out our ratings, we'll take the average of all of the reels that we give them. And if they have a 3 or better, you'll get a golden clock. And when they get a golden clock, that means it's worth your time to watch it. If they get anything below a 3 reel, on average, what'll happen is they'll get a gray broken clock. And what that means is it's not worth your time. We're going to save you the hassle. We do it for you so you don't have to. All right. With all that said, now let's get to the reviews. So we're going to start off with E-Rock. Let us know how you feel about The Five Bloods.
Okay, so Spike Lee, of course, is one of my favorite directors. So I really enjoyed the movie just for the simple fact that it was a Spike Lee movie. I always like all of his movies. And the thing that stood out to me really about the movie was I really liked how they highlighted each character and how they dealt with the quote unquote demons of being in the Vietnam War. I really liked seeing Delroy Lindo's character and how, in my opinion, he was affected probably in the deepest way, just because of what he was dealing with and what he saw with the other character that was killed.
Hey, wait. Don't give away the movie now. People still got to watch it.
Yeah, we are rating the movie.
Right. So that was pretty much what I liked the most and what stood out to me. The reason why I felt that way is because I feel like seeing how people deal with trauma and like the after effects of war is sometimes a perspective that's lost in a lot of movies. And I just like how he really touched on highlighting how each character kind of dealt with their own personal demons in their own unique way. So that's what I kind of took away from watching the movie and what really stood out to me.
So how many reels do you give it?
I'm going to give it 3.5 movie reels. Okay. I thought it was really good, but it kind of got slow at times. And I think the build up to the main parts in the movie kind of took a little bit of time for me. So, but overall it was a good movie, and I'll give it 3.5 movie reels.
All right. Next up, we got Rod P. How did you feel about The Five Bloods?
I thought it was great. I actually thought it was great. And I think E-Rock hit on everything that I liked about it. But there was one other component that I liked about it too. In my opinion, I felt that Spike Lee, in his normal way of directing a movie and going through with his style of cinematography, he actually changed it. If you go back and watch a lot of his stuff, he has a certain style, and I'm encouraging people to go back and look at some of his early stuff, and you see his style to where he came to, with this one. And so that mixture and that difference is what really stood out to me. I actually commented out loud, like, wow, this is a Spike Lee movie, but it's not Spike. It really didn't get Spike until the end, at least in my opinion. So I thought it was well played. And then when you have a cast like that, I thought Delroy Lindo did an outstanding job in a lot of areas. And I'm in complete agreement with E-Rock. I felt that Spike wanted to talk about the aftermath and the after effects of what a lot of men and women go through when they deal with war and things like that. So to me, I thought it was an excellent movie and great job and well done by Spike.
And what do you give it? How many reels you gonna give it?
It gets 4.5 from me.
High score at the box. Okay. All right, Shay, you are up next. How'd you feel about this movie?
So, I think this movie, in my opinion, hit it out of the ballpark in terms of the teaching moment that Spike normally does through his movies. As Rob P mentioned, Spike has a certain way of showing his cinematographic, cinematic skill set, but also a lot of teaching moments. There are a lot of teaching moments throughout his movies. And with this, I think E-Rock touched on it. Like, he focused on the aftermath of war, and how people react, or what the aftermath of being in war weighs on the individual. Some recover from it, and you find out that some don't. And Delroy Lindo, his character Paul, really showed that he could not recover. It was almost as if it was either death or some type of anger that he has to carry on throughout his life to even survive it. There was no other way out for him. So Spike Lee showcased that and used that as a teaching moment for those that go into the military and then come back from it. It could take many, many years to recover from that. He also touched on the issue of race, as he normally does, in terms of the United States impact in the Vietnam War versus how, in this case, they went back in time to recover a treasure or something that they left behind, and they needed assistance from another government. They went to an embassy and they needed assistance, and they showcased and talked about.
All right, don't be giving away the movie again. See, you saying more than you need to say. People ain't gonna want to watch this no more. They're gonna be like, hey, they just tell you the movie, so ain't no point in me watching it.
Right. So I guess what I'm saying is that he showcased the issue of race, he showcased the issue of post-traumatic distress when it comes to war, and you definitely used his cinematic skill set to showcase all these teaching points in the movie. So that's how I feel about it. I think it's a knock in the park in terms of what the message was.
So what's your rating?
My rating is a 4 out of 5 reels.
4 reels. All right. Get some high marks. All right. It's time for show enough. Go ahead.
I know we're going to the next person, but I actually did forget to mention what I didn't like about the movie, but we can touch on that later if we want to.
I wasn't gonna let you go either. I was like, nah, it's too late now.
No, to be honest with you, everybody mentioned all the touching points about Spike Lee. Spike Lee does an amazing job highlighting every character's everything about the character. He makes you fall in love with each and every one of the characters in all of his movies, and he wasn't different with The Five Bloods. I was actually surprised that this movie came out on Netflix. This looked like a movie that had to be in theaters. I just felt like I enjoyed the storyline, the spoils of what war does to people, how many people it touches. He highlighted every single one of that. And yes, to Rod's point, Spike strayed away from his normal routine when it comes to filming, but you still can tell that it is Spike Lee's movie, regardless.
Exactly.
So you can actually go back and be like, oh yeah, that's definitely a Spike Lee movie. I won't be surprised if he gets nominated, even though it came up on Netflix, because everybody, it's not just the actors, it's also the way the director placed the characters and where they had to be at in every part of the film. I would give it a 5 for my rating, but I won't do that only because and it's just this one thing. I felt like the movie dragged on for longer than what it should be. Um, the movie could have been all of the story could have been told in 2 hours instead of 3, in my opinion. But that's the only reason why I'll give it a 4 out of 5.
All right. Still high marks. Still high marks for the first movie that we come out with. All right. Well, that leaves me last year. And so for my review of The Five Bloods, my favorite thing that stood out was the cinematography, of course. The view was amazing. It made me want to go there. Okay, so I found out that it was shot in Thailand. Thailand is really close to Vietnam, but they did it in the jungles of Thailand. This movie took me on an emotional roller coaster, which is something that I look for in great movies. Um, it had drama, action, suspense, comedy, anything you can name, it was in that movie. It had Spike Lee's signature cinematic style, with the exception of the character floating through while the background goes, but the character seemed like they're floating. That's the only thing he didn't do, which was crazy to
No,
me.
he did it. He
Did it
did
at the
it.
end.
He did it at the end. He did it at the
With the
end.
No,
guy
I
and
didn't
his
see
daughter.
that.
The
I
guy
didn't
and his
see
daughter.
that.
Yes, he
With his
did.
Guy and
daughter.
his daughter.
With his daughter.
I did. Oh, okay. I think I do remember that. Oh, okay.
That was why I
Because that's
said
what
it.
tripped me
He
out. I was like,
always
hold up,
does
he
it.
always does that.
But
There will
that's
never
why
be a movie that it won't be in.
that's the reason
Yeah,
why I said
but I love that about him. That we
you can't
come to
forget
know
that that's
him.
a Spike Lee movie.
He has a signature, and so that's what I loved about it. So yeah, you can see that I clearly must be smoking or something, because I miss stuff. I guess I gotta watch stuff like 2 or 3
Smoking on
times.
some random
I think it's just because I'm getting old. Anyway, um, uh, the floating scene obviously was there. The monologue, looking directly into the camera, which really brings you into the emotion of the character. But you have to have a solid actor to be able to do that. I mean, and so that leads me to one of what somebody I think deserves an Oscar. This man has been in every movie, but you don't know his name. And Delroy Lindo, this was Delroy Lindo's movie.
Yes, it
Okay.
was.
He stole the show. All the
Well said.
cast were solid veteran actors, with the new addition of Jonathan Majors, who plays David.
Right.
Look out for him. He's also in another show called Lovecraft Country, I believe.
Lovecraft, yeah, Lovecraft.
But he's also
Very
I think
good
he was
actor.
also in another movie last
Isn't
like
last
San Francisco or something.
and in
like
San
that.
Francisco? Yeah, that got really good
This
reviews.
guy is a great actor. Watch out for him. He's definitely up and coming. What I didn't care for is the slow start. My fiance and I, we were watching it. She fell asleep on it. She couldn't get into it. So that first 20 or 30 minutes, I know it was a lot of character development. It brought us into the show, which I think was a good thing. But the movie was 2 hours and 34 minutes long, which is kind of long for something that's not really an action movie per se. So I truly believe that it's because of the character development that they did that. But oh boy, do they make up for it. You gotta go see this movie.
Yeah, they did.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I also didn't like how they tried to sell the movie through Chadwick Boseman's name. Just because he's the hot actor right now, it was misleading, because this was truly, in fact, Delroy Lindo's movie to me. I applaud the take on the PTSD and how sentimental it made me, even though I didn't live in that time. Okay. And how it made me feel about Black veterans and what they went through physically, mentally, and emotionally. There were times I was sad, happy, relieved. And I mean, I even stood up in my living room and was clapping at one time in the movie. Y'all might remember that time. I was like, oh my God, I know.
Yeah, bro.
It made me feel that like emotional about it. And so I love that movie for that reason. I couldn't say much more about, everyone about anything else that was in the movie, but I believe everybody should go watch this movie. And I want to give you a fun fact. The main characters are named after the original names of the Temptations.
Right.
Okay, so I'm always trying to give you a fun fact in most of the movies.
Good
So
point.
I give it 4 reels. All right. And that gives us a total score of 20. 20, you divide that by 5, and it's an average score of 4, which basically means that because it was 3 or above, that it gets the golden clock, which means it is worth your time to go see it.
Ding,
All
ding,
right.
ding, ding.
So check it out, you guys. It was definitely worth it. All right. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get in.